I do think, that we kind of do need to get back to our roots a little bit. And that's my personal opinion. Like I feel, I grew up in a farming community. My parents still farm to this day. And I feel like there's a lot of kids that just grow up, lots of different places around the world, and they have no idea where their bread actually comes from, or, they don't understand that meat actually came from a rancher. And I just feel like, that was part of the reason I wanted to create this book, was just, to kind of, like I said, get back to the basics. Working for an oil and gas company doesn't mean we're evil.
Did you know that the #1 book on Amazon.com, so globally, in children's short stories, is a pro oil and gas book written by a guy who works in the oil patch? Obviously, I could not be more excited about this development. The book is about a cute little pump jack. Look at this from the book's description on Amazon.com. Meet Oscar, the fun pumping unit with a smile. He works hard so that we can have all the nice things that come from petroleum products. One afternoon, his pump gets stuck, but luckily, he has a good friend show up to save the day. Teach your kids about the hard workers in the oil and gas industry looking to provide for their families. It's fantastic that this book rocketed to #1 almost instantly. Thrills me as an advocate for oil and gas and for oil and gas workers, because it shows that there is a demand for something other than the constant Greta Thunberg fear-mongering being fed to our kids every single day. So I just had to talk to the author. Lucas Wurtz is the author of Oscar the Little Pumper, and I talked to him late last week from his home in North Dakota. Check it out.
I work for Marathon Oil Company here in North Dakota. My title is a facility specialist on the electrical side. So I'm an electrical specialist, which basically means I'm a supervisor for new facility builds for Marathon. So I'll line out like the electrical contractors that actually build the production pads, and we'll wire pumping units. We'll wire all the instrumentation for tank batteries, treaters, all of it basically. And here lately, in the last couple of months, we've been providing like permanent power to drilling rigs that we have going over by Newtown, North Dakota. Just basically anything electrical. That's kind of what I'm into. So
now you have written a children's book, which I'm very excited to see is doing very well on Amazon.com. So I'm Canadian. So when things do well on Amazon.ca, we get excited. But when they do well on Amazon.com, that's the big time. Why don't you tell us first what the book is about?
The book is just about a little pumping unit, and he's very proud of what he does. He pumps for oil, and he, in the book, if you've read it, he talks about, the people make all sorts of cool stuff with my oil. And basically it's just to bring awareness to, what oil and gas actually does. I think a lot of people take for granted all the great things that do come from oil and gas. So yeah, he talks about that a little bit, and then he runs into some trouble one day, and he has a friend that shows up and helps him with this problem. And he's the pumping unit, Oscar. He's very thankful that he got his problem fixed, but in return, the guy that fixed his problem, his name is Drew, is very happy that he has problems to go out and fix for him, because at the end of the day, that's his job, and that's how he provides for his little son and his wife.
Now, I think it's a great message, because your book talks about the value of oil and gas, which I think is wonderful, but also the value and dignity of work. Now, what prompted you to write this book? Because I know what prompted me to be so excited to see your book doing so well, but what prompted you as a dad to write this book?
Well, it was always something that was kind of a goal for me. I mean, even before I had my son, I always wanted to write a kid's book, just because I thought it would be awesome, for that moment of reading with my son, or, my future children, I guess. And then, when they get a little bit older and more aware, my son's only 1 right now, but just looking at that and, it'd be kind of cool that, oh, my dad wrote that book. So that's kind of where it always started. I keep a list of goals that I want to accomplish in life, and that's always been one of them. And I mean, I've been in the oil and gas industry for about 10 years now, so I'm pretty passionate about what I do and like what we do. And it just kind of tied in. And I just, over this last year, just with the craziness of COVID and, oil prices going negative and just everything with the media, just, basically degrading our industry, I just thought, there's so many people out there that they don't even understand what we do, and like how many blessings there are. I mean, for me in North Dakota, I think about a lot of times like my great grandparents that settled across the prairie on horses, and how thankful they would be to have a gas or diesel pickup that they could have driven, and had some heat in the wintertime, So I just feel like in today's society, we have so much awesome things that just people take for granted because it's just second nature. They've never known any different.
Lucas, you're on the other side of the border from me, but you're speaking my language, especially about the settlers coming here and what they would have done for diesel, what they would have done for a diesel powered tractor or some heat that they didn't have to go chop down. I wanted to ask you, because you've written the book, what do you think about this? Maybe it's the same in the school systems there, activist teachers sort of indoctrinating kids about the dangers of oil and gas. I know your son isn't even in school yet, but do you have the same sort of concerns that I know a lot of parents in the oil patch like me, we have those concerns that it feels as though when our kids come home from school, we have to sort of scrub their little brains clean of all the things that teachers have told them about the bad things that their parents do for a living.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just to promote the renewable narrative. And for the record, like I love the renewable stuff. I mean, especially being in, electrical, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like I love new technology. I mean, that's constantly improving what we do at work. I mean, thinking about what we did 5 years ago, even compared to today, is just crazy. So, I do think, that we kind of do need to get back to our roots a little bit. And that's my personal opinion. Like I feel, I grew up in a farming community. My parents still farm to this day. And I feel like there's a lot of kids that just grow up, and, lots of different places around the world, and they have no idea where their bread actually comes from, or, they don't understand that meat actually came from a rancher. And I just feel like, that was part of the reason I wanted to create this book, was just, to kind of, like I said, get back to the basics, to just kind of, not like you said, it kind of ties into like the worker and everything, but just to kind of, promote like a general, like, thought of, oh yeah, like this comes from somewhere. This is, it's not just here by magic. Just like I'm an electrician, like somebody had to wire my house to have these lights come on, or, so my outlet can charge this computer, I guess. But so I think, there needs to be some more of that. I think we need to just kind of push stuff like this. And, just the fact that people are, like us in our situation, like working for an oil and gas company doesn't mean we're evil. We're just out there to do our job and, provide for our families.
Well, that's the thing. What I liked about your book was that it reminded people that parents too, I think, who read it, but little kids who would be hearing it too, they are learning about the good things that oil and gas do before somebody at school tells them all the bad things they think it does. And,
right.
It's sort of the opposite of what they're doing in school. We're getting them young and telling them the truth before they get to school, and somebody tells them all the bad things that Joe Biden wants them to feel about oil and gas.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Lucas, how can people find your book? Because I think that people where I am on the Canadian prairies, but primarily in Alberta, there's a lot of oil patch dads who are going to want to buy this book for their little people. What's the best way for people to get a copy of your book?
The best way right now is just Amazon. I mean, that's the only way you can really buy it at the moment. I have, in my area, I have talked to local bookstores about it, and I haven't really worked through the details on that yet. I would eventually, like to be in Barnes and Noble. It's kind of a goal of mine, but it's just a process. I mean, I'm very much in the baby stages of this. I mean, this book hasn't even been on Amazon, a week now. Like in a few hours, it'll be on Amazon for a whole week. So at the moment, like I'm still kind of figuring stuff out, and it might take me a little bit and stuff, but eventually I want to have a Kindle version. But I'd say for the near future, Amazon's really going to be the only way.
Well, and nothing beats sitting down with your child and flipping the pages of a book as opposed to an e-version of a book. I know e-versions are easy to for everybody to have, but there's nothing like flipping the pages of a book with a little one. Lucas, I want to thank you so much for writing this book, for doing what you can to sort of flip the page on the agenda, and for giving parents a tool that they can help their little people understand that oil and gas and daddy's job isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I appreciate, all the hardworking Canadians in the oil and gas industry that have reached out to me on LinkedIn and just said, thank you for creating this book. I never expected it would, kind of blow up like it has. And so I know there's a whole lot of good, hardworking people up there. And I know there's a lot of, big Canadian oil companies actually around where we work and everything and producing oil wells. And it just makes me happy, wherever oil and gas is popular.
The other side of the conversation about oil and gas, well, they love to start them young, don't they? Scaring kids about climate change, telling them humans are some sort of invasive species ruining the earth, telling little kids that their parents are responsible for the world coming to an end in 12 years from now, or 10 years, or 9 years, or whatever their doomsday clock is at these days. But the success of Lucas's cute little book shows that parents are plugged in, truly plugged in and aware, and parents are eager to set the foundations of truth about the gifts of the bounty of oil and gas before they get their kids into an activist school system and into an activist pop culture. These things want to tell kids the complete opposite of the truth. The problem is, for parents, there are just not enough materials and tools out there to help them spread the good news. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. Rebel News has been completely demonetized on YouTube, and it's frankly just a matter of time before we are gone from YouTube altogether. If, and or more likely, when that happens, we want to be able to let you, our viewers, know where we've gone. Please go to afteryoutube.com. Leave us your name, leave us your email address, so that when we get completely scrubbed off YouTube, we know how to get in touch with you to tell you where we're at.